This is the first episode of Real Talk in 2025, and it's the first episode post Palisades Fire. As many of you know, I lost my house in the fire. I lost a house that we were building right around the corner in the fire. My kids lost their school, and it was a loss of an entire community. All of our extracurriculars, the retail, the restaurants, the sports, the park, the rec center, the library, the dance studio, the art studio, you name it. It's been a challenging time. I'm not going to beat around the bush, but we are maintaining our strength and our optimism and trying to regain our stability. And because of everyone who has reached out to us and to my family, and it has meant the world. I know there are a couple of organizations that I specifically mentioned in this upcoming podcast, which I'll tell you about, but I left so many people out. Jordana and David Berg, all of Village School, Rachel and Jeff Schwartz, David Meharuni, Adrian Berger, folks in YPO. I could go on and on and on. John Barish, Sonny Barish. I literally, so many people have been so generous in making sure that our lives were able to regain some semblance of stability, whether it's clothes, whether it's sending over food, whether it's just a how are you message. I just want to say thank you to all of you. And so the days right after the fire, a good client and friend of mine, Gidi Cohen, who's also been on this podcast as a guest, said, "Hey, Andrew, let me interview you on Real Talk so you can tell your story about the fire and the aftermath." And so this episode, we reverse roles. I am the guest. Gidi Cohen is the interviewer. And look, as I indicate at the end of the podcast, the reason why I did this particular podcast, to be honest, is for my kids, so that they're 10 and 8, and I'm sure they'll always remember this fire, but they will be able to listen to this podcast and understand what happened and remember not just the challenging times, but the positivity that came out of it and the selflessness of so many people in the community. Yet there are also some harsh realities as well. So indulge me while I am my own guest on this podcast. And thank you for listening. And thank you for all your support.
Welcome to Real Talk, Real Estate Discussions with Andrew Kirsh. In each episode, Andrew interviews industry leaders. We'll hear their real-time opinions on today's market, their background and unique career highlights, and guidance for newcomers into the industry. You can find this show at sklarkirsh.com and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Now here's the host of Real Talk, Andrew Kirsh.
Welcome to another edition of Real Talk, the first one of 2025. And I'm here with my good friend, Gidi Cohen. And, Gidi, I didn't expect that this would be the first podcast of Real Talk of 2025. And after the fires in the Palisades of January 7th, I was thinking, how do I tell my story? And you and I have talked off camera a lot, and you've been a dear friend during this time. And it was shortly after January 7th where you said, let's do a podcast and you'll interview me. And so today, we're making podcast history for Real Talk. I'm giving up the mic to you, trusting the mic to my dear friend, Gidi Cohen. So Gidi, take it away.
Thank you. Well, I gotta say I'm a little bit nervous the first time I'm doing it. So hopefully I'm not going to crash with you. But before we start, tell me how you're doing. How is Courtney doing, Maverick? Clementine, how are the kids doing?
So the kids are doing much better than the parents, right? The kids are, they're selfish creatures, right? They are just, as long as they're having a good day at school, or for Clementine, a good day at dance, or Maverick, a good day at sports, it doesn't matter where they live, house, apartment. They have me and Courtney. They have, well, I'll talk about the friend issue, but they just are resilient creatures.
And you guys lost your house in a fire. So first, where do you live now?
Yeah, so right now it's crazy because we're in Santa Monica, in the same apartment that Courtney and I lived in before we had kids. So I was fortunate enough many years ago, I bought a little 4-unit apartment building off of Montana Avenue, which is probably one of the best streets in all of LA, in Santa Monica. It's a little oasis within Santa Monica. And for Courtney, she wanted to replicate the Palisades, the beauty of the Palisades, the walkability of the Palisades. And one of the areas that you can get that was right next to our neighborhood, and that was Santa Monica. And so we are in a wonderful location in a cozy 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment.
And the kids are going to the same school, or they still have schooling, or what's the situation with schooling with the kids?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the kids' school, village school, burnt down. And we were able to, I was, throughout January, other than settling my family initially, I spent more time making sure that the school had a home. And I worked with the head of school and the other board members in relocating village school to an office building. It's called Colorado Center. We're on a sublease through Boston Properties owns it. Edmonds is the tenant, and we worked with Edmonds and Boston Properties to get village school relocated. It's 55,000 square feet. We have a sublease for about 3 years. There's a Santa Monica park that's within the envelope of the office project. So for recess and outdoors and lunch, they have a place to be outside as well.
So you and the rest of the parents actually organized a whole new school for the entire school system, or just some of the grades? Some of the kids came, all the kids came. How does it work?
Yeah, so it's an independent private school, TK through 6th, and I'm on the board and one of the only, I think 1 or 2 of the only real estate folks on the board, and the only real estate attorney on the board. And so from helping them find it to negotiating the sublease, that's the legal aspect. But from the administration standpoint, they had to buy everything from pencils to desks to computers to sports equipment. They had to replicate the school. And we did it within, gosh, I want to say 3 to 3.5 weeks after the fire.
Unbelievable. So all the parents got together, everybody pulled their weight up, and then this is what, and all the kids moved, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's the broader discussion that I'd love to share. I mean, it's with respect to the school itself, to answer your question specifically, gosh, I don't have the specific numbers. I think the school was around 290 students. I'm going to assume, somewhere around 240 to 250 kids are there. So a good amount. So the school has done well.
So 80% of the students moved to the new facility.
Yeah.
And is also the same thing about the teachers?
Yeah. I think all the teachers came as well.
And for what you know, because there were other schools in Pacific Palisades that were affected by the fire, so they all came to the same solutions, or where are the rest? Because I understand that we're dealing with your issue, but your issue obviously is reflecting 6,000 other families that suffer from the same thing. So how did everybody else manage?
So this is one example. Like, there are some examples where private school can outperform public school, but there's other examples where public school can outperform private school. Public school has a ton of real estate. And so Pali Elementary was basically half burned. They got to Brentwood Magnet School, a couple miles away. Marquez Elementary School, which is a public school, totally burnt down. They were able to go to another public facility. The private schools, they don't have those other campuses at their disposal. So it was really a free-for-all where each school was on their own, the private schools having to make their own, making their own plans, right? Making it work out of an office building.
Unbelievable. So I remember the day of the fire, I spoke to you, I think that day or maybe a day after. You and Courtney were in a state of shock. If I'm not mistaken, you drove to Palm Springs for a few days just to kind of come down.
At your suggestion, by the way.
Come down and control the kids, making sure that everybody's in a good, healthy space.
Yeah.
What happened there? Just walk me through the first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Just to so also, I'm curious to see it just emotionally, mentally, what you guys went through. I mean, you guys lost homes is one thing, but you had a lot of personal stuff in it that has much more value than just money. So if you can walk us through it a little bit, just to kind of get it.
You have 5 hours. All right, it's
your time. So
let's first talk about January 7th.
Yeah.
Actually, let's go back because it's important to provide some context, at least as it relates to me and my family. We just got back from an amazing 2-week European trip. I don't call it a vacation. I specifically use the word trip because when you're traveling with a 10 and an 8-year-old in cold cities, without skiing, by the way, it was a trip, but it was an amazing time. But as anyone knows, after 2 weeks of traveling, especially to Europe, and the logistics, you're ready to come home. And so we come home late that January 5th. It was chaos at LAX, everyone coming home from their winter vacation. We got home late. January 6th was a Monday. The kids actually did not have school that day. And Courtney did her normal walk around the Palisades. She goes from our house to the bluffs, overlooking the ocean, through the downtown Palisades, back to our house. About an hour to an hour and a half walk. And on that walk on that Monday, it was a crystal blue day, beautiful winter day in LA. She calls me and she said, I loved our trip, but my gosh, I am so happy to be home, right? We don't need to move anywhere. I mean, it was just her recognizing of how special of a place we live in. And even thinking it's now been 2 months, I'm still getting emotional over that conversation. So that was Monday. Tuesday, she calls me at about 11 in the morning. She's on that walk. She says, there's a fire that has started in the hillside, and it seems like it's getting closer. I think I'm going to get the kids out of school. I said, come on. We see fires all the time in the hillside. I think you're being paranoid. She hangs up.
Knowing Courtney, I can see that.
10 minutes later, she says, no, Andrew, you don't understand. This is getting closer. I'm getting the kids. We'll be in touch. I was like, oh my God. Okay, Courtney, you're being paranoid. Ridiculous. Do what you feel is right. That's now 11 o'clock, 11:30. She calls me. She says, I think you should come home. The kids are in an emotional state. It's a lot closer than you think. Come home. And I mean, I'm back in work mode. We were gone for over 2 weeks. I want to be in the office. I said, I've got a lunch meeting. She said, no, you don't understand. Get your ass home now. Okay. So I'm driving home from Century City to the Palisades, and I'm seeing an exodus of cars from the Palisades getting out of the Palisades. I'm like, oh my God. I don't even know how I'm going to get out of the Palisades. It was like Dodger Stadium, Rose Bowl, Hollywood Bowl, like the worst parking exodus situation you have seen. And so I get home. The kids were emotional. I'm seeing, fire and smoke in the distance, not right where we are. They're packing up a few things. I'm helping them get together, their belongings. My daughter is like, Daddy, We need to go. Let's leave. Had I known what I know now, if I just took a beat and just said, okay, what do I need to get out of the house? If we're truly getting evacuated and there's a risk of a fire.
Passports.
Right. So we took our passports, we took our birth certificates.
Okay.
I held Courtney's jewelry box and she said, just put it down, we're leaving. The last thing I took was Maverick's baseball glove. It was sitting on a chair right next to the front door. And that thing took 6 months of me breaking it in for him to be able to use it. And I said, if this house is going down, I'm not buying a new glove for him.
You took the glove.
I took the glove. So here's what we had in our car: our passports, our birth certificates, some stuffed animals for the kids, maybe a pair of clothes for a day or two, and his baseball glove.
Oh my God.
We didn't take the jewelry box. We didn't take a lot of clothes. And everybody in my neighborhood, they all say the same thing. We should have, what were we thinking? If we were evacuating for a day, the reason why you evacuate is because there is a risk that your house may burn down. Take as much as you can. And we didn't.
Your head was in a different survival mode. It was not about this, about let me get my kids out, let me get out of here, let me find a safe place. I want to get out of here. Let's not worry about everything in the house, which is understandable in a circumstance like that.
So we had evacuated before. A few years ago, there was a fire. We went to my in-laws' house, literally just down the block, like a mile away. Not even. Why we just went there, I have no idea, but we went there. I was still working on purchase and sale agreements. I was on conference calls. 1 o'clock turned into 2, turned into 3. Courtney says, we got to start getting some hotel reservations. This isn't good. I said, come on, this is crazy. What are we talking about here? If the fire gets to the Alphabet Streets, which is my neighborhood next to Caruso's village, I said, if the fire gets there, this city is screwed. The Palisades is done. That's not going to happen, I said. We live next to one of the most desirable, wealthy, expensive shopping areas in the city, in Caruso's village. We literally are 1 block away from a fire station. We are not in hillside. We are flat, dense area. I said, there's no way this fire is getting to us. And that was the thought of everybody who lived in.
And that was all November 7th.
January 7th.
January 7th. When did you find out that the house is done?
All right. So later that afternoon, Courtney's parents' house got into the evacuation zone. We had to leave there. So where do we go? So we ended up at the Sofitel Hotel, who our mutual friend Alana Body owns, and it was like a Palisades refugee camp, right? Everyone, you couldn't even get any other hotel room. Every hotel in Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, South Bay was totally booked. Courtney's pissed off at me, saying, I told you so. We needed to get our act together. Alana was nice enough able to get a few rooms. And then that night, we're having dinner and reports are coming in. You know, people's Ring alarm systems were either going off and then going black. People getting alerts on their phones. So we could tell that it had approached our neighborhood. And then you turn on the local news, and it was Armageddon. It was just fires.
You knew then.
I knew then. I didn't know my specific house burnt down, but I knew our neighborhood was on fire.
When did you know about the house?
I got visual confirmation. My father-in-law, who's approaching 80 years old, said, screw it, at like 7 in the morning. He drives there and says, I'm going to take a look to see what happened. And he called and he said, my house is gone. His other daughter, my sister-in-law's house is gone. We lived a block away, and his house had survived. They lived in Rustic Canyon. So now,
so you wake up.
It's now the morning of January 8th.
And you know that the house is gone.
The house is gone. The neighborhood is gone. And before I get into what we did January 8th, let me just talk about
the hours, the middle of the night, January 7th, okay, going into January 8th. So my immediate family gets 2 hotel rooms. I share a room with Maverick, and Courtney shares a room with Clementine. My in-laws were there. My sister-in-law was there. They were on their own. I'm sharing a bed with Maverick, and I turn the TV off. I want him to sleep. I'm looking at my phone, text messages, WhatsApp chats, anything on Twitter. Scene reports come in. It's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 in the morning, and I'm just sobbing. Just crying. Maverick wakes up. Daddy, why are you crying? Are you crying? No, go back to sleep. It was easily the worst night of sleep. I didn't even sleep, right? Overly emotional, and asking myself, why am I overly emotional, right? Why am I crying? So, like, not even crying, just sobbing, like uncontrollably. Hadn't cried like this at a grandparents' funeral. Hadn't cried like this where Courtney and I had miscarriages late in a pregnancy. And I was crying not for the loss of personal items, but it was the loss or knowing that my kids' childhood would never be the same. That the way of life that we had up until that day is not going to be replicated. That the walking to school is now gone, or at least for several years.
Are you saying it, knowing it now, or then you knew that's why you're crying?
While I was crying, I just knew the walking to the park for Little League, the walking to the school, to running into everybody.
It's the memories and the experiences.
The memories and the next several years of my life of what I was expecting it to be, of having elementary school kids, right? And knowing just in my head of how long it would take for the Palisades to get back to what it was is going to take long enough. It is going to take a period of time that my kids are, I don't want to say outgrow what the Palisades had to offer, but all of the things that the Palisades sort of caters to at that elementary school age, kid age, that they're going to miss it.
So you in the middle of the night sitting there feeling everything that I built, my dream, the way of living, everything that it's like I have foundation, I have control of, it's gone. Somebody took it away from me.
Yeah.
And you feel kind of vulnerable and not sure how to handle it and not sure what to tell Maverick at that point.
Exactly. I didn't know what to say. And for him, so both my kids said 2 very poignant things when they woke up in the morning and we told them that our house was gone. Maverick, who's 8 and a boy and not as emotionally developed as my daughter, he says, Daddy, I just wish that when we were driving away from our house, that I took a longer look at the house, knowing that's the last time I'm going to see it.
Sounds like you're more emotionally involved than you think he is.
Totally. I know. And that's why it was very, that was gut-wrenching. But even more gut-wrenching was when Clementine says, Daddy, what do you think it felt like for my stuffed animals, for my Barbie dream house to be burning, for my room to be on fire? Did they feel anything? What was it like in there? How do you answer a 10-year-old?
Do you think, I'm not a psychologist, but do you think she was projecting about how she would feel and connected to the animals?
Probably.
Or she was really... So how did you tell them about when the house got burned down?
I just said it was, unfortunately, our house and many thousands of others burnt down.
And that was her first reaction about the stuffed animal? Or?
It wasn't the first, but it was one of her first reactions. But they were sad, but it was almost like they were contemplating, trying to put it together. Like, what just happened? What does this mean? What do we do next? Mom, Dad, what are we going to do? I haven't experienced this. And
it's a trauma. It's definitely a trauma.
And so in talking with you, you strongly encouraged us to, in order to get in the right headspace, to get out of town. And so we just got in our cars and we drove east and we went to Palm Springs.
Then you spent like a few days there.
It was more like 2.5 weeks.
You spent 2.5 weeks? Wow.
Yeah, about 2 weeks, two to 2.5 weeks.
Now, I know Courtney. She's a very emotional lady, super strong, but very emotional. And you here, the man in the house, the leader of the house, needs to control 2 babies, Courtney, and yourself.
And a dog.
And the dog. How do you do it? Where is the strength to come in and say, hey, listen, this is my time to show up? Because that's really your time to show up, and I know you did.
Yeah, well, I don't want to be chauvinistic, and because Courtney showed up as much, if not more, than I did. So
I didn't mean to be chauvinistic that way.
So I go back to, I guess, just either how I am or my training as a transactional lawyer. And I think I'm not going to say as men, but just me specifically.
As an athlete,
I am task oriented.
Yes.
Right. And so I just created my checklist and knew there were a lot of things I had to accomplish. Dealing with insurance, lenders, and primarily...
So you're more to a task mode.
Task mode, and primarily it was the school. How do I help the school? And it was Courtney who was thinking more big picture. Do we leave California? Do we stay in California but leave LA? It was that decision of what do we do? Like the short-term decisions was what I was focusing on. And although tedious, I could put my arms around them. And I had a plan to address them. The hardest question to answer was, where do we live? We are blessed with having a lot of options. There are quite a few people, whether it's Altadena or Palisadians, who don't have options. We have options. But with that, those options creates anxiety and nervousness and fear. Fear, if I leave LA, what impact will that have on my law firm? Fear of what kind of impact will that have on my kids? Will they be able to be as happy as they were?
I want to go to your law firm in a minute, but I want to still stay. Just before you went to Palm Springs, you came here to the office.
Yeah, and I ran into you.
I met you guys in the parking lot.
That's right.
I saw you and Courtney and the kids getting the minivan.
Yep.
And heading to Palm Springs.
Yep.
And when I saw you guys, I gotta say that I felt like you guys are units. The look in you and Courtney had in your eyes, the kids were in the back seat. I felt, okay, those guys got it. I mean, they're in a state of crisis, but they got it. Today, are you guys using any therapists, family consultant together? Are you seeing the kids are seeing anyone? Because it is a traumatic experience, and they're going to carry it, and we're all going to carry it to the rest of our life. Obviously, kids are more resilient than us, but there is some scars that will come from it.
I have not yet seen a therapist. We do need to see a family therapist. My daughter is seeing one. I think we're all still affected. We will always be affected. I think it has affected my daughter more. And so we wanted her to talk with a therapist, but it needs to be done. I want it to be done in a family manner.
In family setting.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take the kids to see the house after it burned down?
separately. I took Maverick, and Courtney took Clementine.
What was the reaction? Or more the expression, not so much what they said.
Maverick's expression was,
Where's my baseball bat?
no, he was more amazed at, because when you drive, and I do encourage as many people to drive through the Palisades just to see the scope of the devastation is unbelievable. Yet there are certain houses and buildings that remain. Now, the Caruso Village, he's talked publicly about it, had both materials and a private firefighting unit that saved his building. But there are random homes and random buildings that did not have private firefighting, and they're standing. And you just wonder, that's what he kept asking. How did that house survive? How did that building survive? Clementine, she was fine when she saw our house, but when she saw her school in just rubble, she cried. She broke down. And Courtney wishes she never went. Courtney doesn't wish that Clementine never went. Courtney wishes that she never went, because she would have liked the last impression that she has of our house in the Palisades of just being intact. Even though she has seen all the footage, it's one thing to see it on your phone. It's another thing to experience it, to smell it.
It's a whole different memory now.
Yeah.
Are you going to rebuild?
So it's a great question. And the answer to that question changes daily.
That's fair. That's more than fair. First, if you rebuild, which means you're going to stay in LA.
I'm 90% staying in LA.
That's good to know. We don't want to lose it.
Courtney was talking with had us literally moving to Nashville.
Nashville, out of all places. No. That's a good dream for a couple of weekends, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see you moving to Orange County, maybe Ventura County. But,
she has moving there too.
Yeah, but
Rancho Santa Fe.
Yeah, but so you don't know yet if you're going to rebuild.
Here's the issue. There's the big debate now is how long will it take for the Palisades to get back? If you asked 100 people, you literally will get 100 answers, right? It's like Thanksgiving dinner and everyone having their own opinion.
Sounds fair about everything else in politics in LA. Okay.
Right? Some people think we'll be back by the end of 26. Other people think it's going to be 5 to 7 years. I think it's going to be somewhere in between.
So let's assume it's 5 years. How is that going to drive you?
Okay. So if my kids were literally babies, or if they were teenagers, I would say I'm rebuilding. I don't care about the time, because if they were very young and it takes 3, 4, 5 years, great. The house will be built in the prime childhood time period for them to enjoy the Palisades. And if they were teenagers, I would want a house for them to come back to, or I have less concern about the time, because they've already sort of outgrown the house. But they're in this peak prime adolescent years of 10 and 8, where I want their childhood to resume today. And that is the question that every family of similar aged kids are facing. There are some people who literally moved on January 8th. If they had a second home, gone. If they had family in a different part of the country, gone.
When your kids are 8, it's a different runway, because by the time, if it's 5 years, really, or 7 years, by the time they'll go back to 13 years. So that 5 years you're going to lose and having a real home.
Correct.
So that's what drives the decision. So you're very pragmatic about it. What about the emotional part? You're going back to a house that got burned down. The entire street is going to be rebuilt. It's almost you moving to a whole different neighborhood. The feel change, the energy change. You're looking at houses from the 20s to 30s. All of a sudden, everything is 2025. I mean, you're moving to almost like a new development area.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, what the Palisades was on January 7th is not what it's going to be 3 to 5 years from now or whenever it's finished.
Plus the memories of the fire, the trauma, to go back to it every day.
Yeah, for
Is that
me,
taking part of this decision?
I don't know. It not for me, but maybe my family. It could. I don't want to speak for them. Let me give you a couple of examples of why it's hard to just move back. Because even if you move back, and the Palisades are going to be great. I mean, come on, it is irreplaceable property, location, adjacent to the ocean, a set on top of the bluffs, a little oasis within this big metropolis, right? It will come back. But for us, the question is, who will be the ones who repopulate it? It won't be
What's a demographic? What's a new demographic?
a lot of our friends. And the one example that I'll use is Maverick was on an all-star baseball team last summer. It was a great team, great families. We all have kids of the same age. We hang out together. It was a special group. It went from baseball to flag football to soccer to basketball, back to baseball. It was a cycle, right? You run into them. Of his 12, at least for the core baseball team, of the 12, 13 kids, 9 are gone. Will they come back? Maybe, maybe not. But they're not in West LA right now. They're in Park City, Sun Valley, Dallas, San Diego, Orange County, Manhattan Beach. And what's happening is they're establishing new relationships, new connections, new schools. And so even if you ask those people, are you coming back? They may say yes today, but in 2 to 3 years, it could be a totally different answer.
Different places, yeah, roots, new life.
Right. And so I go back to why was I crying so much on that night? It's because I just knew it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah. It's devastating for you and 600,000 families, and I'm looking here at the report. 105,000 people evacuated. 105,000, 23,000 acres, 6,000 homes. It's insane. All right, let's go to your practice, if that's okay.
Let's do it.
You are definitely one of the most well-known attorneys in real estate attorney in LA. You have lots of clients. A lot of people live in Pacific Palisades. You're obviously very much aware of the political environment that we are in LA right now. And I'm sure you had your personal opinion before January 7th, and you have a different opinion now.
Of what specifically? Of the government?
Not the government. It's just about the LA in specific. Where is LA heading?
Yeah. So before January 7th, I was as excited for 2000 as for the new year. I would say I was more excited for this coming year than I have been for many years. We have been in a 2 to 3 year recession, whatever you want, whatever the government calls it. The real estate industry has been in a recession since May of 22, spring of 22. So that was more than 2.5 years of clients having challenges, clients going to me on loan workouts, modifications, short sales.
Client having 2 challenges. One of them is with the government in Los Angeles, political government,
Yeah.
and the real estate market.
Yeah.
Okay, so because I'd like you to touch the 2 of them.
Sure.
I'm more concerned about the LA political environment versus the real estate.
It'll combine. It'll combine.
It's my first interview.
I know.
I gotta figure it out as I go.
Look, you know what? You're doing a decent job.
A decent job. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
I'm going to take some points.
yeah. All right. So look, we had the presidential election. We had in the fourth quarter of 24 a lot of optimism. Regardless of your political affiliation, it doesn't matter. People were finally excited for 25 from a capital markets perspective, doing deals, doing transactions. They liked where things were fundamentally. And there was a trend of my clients previously focusing their efforts in the Sun Belt region of Vegas, Phoenix, Texas, Nashville, Florida, Carolinas. And there was a shift over the last, I don't know, 6 months of capital wanting to come back to coastal markets. I saw it. I had done more deals in the last 6 months from the Pacific Northwest to California than I had done in the last several years. So I was excited for all of that.
Is that new money or local money? Like local developers and investors?
I would say both. I would say that capital has gotten that they just felt that in these oversupplied markets where you could just build forever, that rents got really depressed, and there was an effort or desire to go back to supply constrained markets. They may not want to be in the city of LA, but maybe business friendly communities in Southern California. So I was excited for the new year, and after the fires and seeing, look, we knew that day we had unprecedented winds. It was hurricane type winds. We live where hillside meets dense infill areas. We knew there would be homes that were going to burn down. But 6,000 and however many other homes that were damaged because of smoke, we're talking about, I don't even think it's debatable. I think it's the worst fire to affect a city in the history of the United States. It's got to be. And
Absolutely.
Probably one of the worst in the world.
Absolutely.
Government failed us. 6,000 homes should not burn. And so when you start hearing about 100 million gallon reservoir being empty because of $100,000 repair, and it has taken over a year, that's government failing us. When you hear about not enough water pressure coming out of hydrants in the second biggest city in America and probably one of the top 10 economies in the world, when you look at if LA was its own country and not having enough water and water pressure, that's government failing us. And when you talk about why the hillside brush hadn't been cleared in years, that's government failing us.
So do you believe that this is a wake-up call? And do you believe it's really going to make a difference?
When you say make a difference, can you be more specific?
Yes. I mean, government failures. There is negligence in almost all the departments. Police, fire departments, emergencies, negligence across the board. There are policies that definitely not pro-investors and pro-developers. They are clusterfuck within the building and safety and all the permits. So that's where the difference is. Do you think that because of the fire, government will come, the mayor, the governor will wake up and say, okay, this is a time to fix it all? And if they see it and if they're capable.
All right, so a couple things. One, I think government's primary job is to keep us safe. That's it, right? Everything else is sort of gravy.
But we haven't been safe in LA between crime and homelessness
And that's
6-7 years now.
That's my point. So government has failed us.
But that's before the fire.
I agree. And so if you are misallocating funds where it should be going, if you aren't fully funding your fire department and fully funding your police department to fund other programs, our priorities are not aligned.
But funding is not an issue. There was $20 billion that went to homeless. Nobody can count for. It's not about funding.
It's the allocation.
And it's the supervision of the allocation.
100%.
Okay.
So I'm with you. I 100% agree. I am pissed off. I am angry that we didn't have enough water, that we didn't have enough firefighting personnel, that it took Mayor Bass until, I understand, 7 p.m. to call a state of emergency, which had she called it earlier.
She was out of the country.
She was in Ghana, which did not help my home.
Good. Yeah.
Did not help my home. You ask if, though.
But back to the question:
Yeah.
is that changing your view, or your view was there before,
Oh, I see.
and now this is just like the nail that?
So somebody once told me, when something happens to your neighbor, you're a Democrat. When something happens to you, you become a Republican.
When something happened to your neighbor, you're a socialist.
Okay.
When
Yeah.
somebody happened to you, you become a Republican.
So I do see a changing tide. I see people who, and I'm a moderate, right? I voted for Democrats. I actually haven't voted for many Republicans, but I'm going to start voting, I think, more that way. There just needs to be a more common sense, practical approach. You look at Rick Caruso; he's a very practical person. I wonder what things would have been like had he been in charge.
But here's the thing: you have a big practice here.
Yeah.
And you're in the intersection right now, making a decision about where am I going to live, which, Courtney said, you can move to Nashville. And where do I want to practice law?
Yep.
And even if I stay here and I live here, is my practice and my life and my family, A, safe? And B, am I going to be able to provide under this environment?
That's what everyone is grappling with.
But not everybody's here. You're here. So where is your head?
I think if I had the balls, I would. I'm a risk taker, but for some reason, there's something holding me back here. I would like to go on an adventure. I am jealous of the people, of my friends who have moved, whether it's temporarily or permanently, to experience life outside of LA. Now, I did go to college and law school in Chicago.
Hold on.
Yeah.
People here don't know that you and I know each other for years. And we have a lot of those conversations.
Yeah.
If you remember, at one point of your life, you want to move to San Francisco. What was that?
Golden State Warriors.
Golden State
in-house
Warriors.
counsel.
And if that offer went through, you would be gone. There was a time that you and Courtney was talking again about where to live, what to move, and a lot of personal stuff that we went. And you said to yourself, if I had the balls, now I know you have the balls, it's not about that, but why not? And I'm not trying to get you out. I'm just trying to figure out here and to share. Why not? Knowing Courtney, I know you and her would be good in the way to where you go, and you'll be able to provide to your family. Why staying? I mean, you in your late 40s.
I'm going to be 50 in 4 months.
That's late 40s.
Yeah.
So you're in your late 40s. You have 2 young kids. You're basically in a place in your life that, if not now, it's probably not going to be ever, never. So why not? It's not balls.
I think it's a couple things. One, as co-founder of my firm, leader of my real estate group, wanting people to be back in the office, moving to another office in a couple months. Even associates of mine, colleagues of mine, said when I was gone for a month, said it wasn't the same without me here. I feel as the captain of the ship, I need to be in LA, not just for the law firm itself, but having my finger on the pulse of what's going on. Even though my practice is national, I want to know what's going on locally. But of the 20 to 30 calls I do in a day, I don't know, maybe only half of them are with people in LA. And even those that are in LA, you know how tough it is to navigate around the city. I may only see those people a couple times in LA.
But I want to share something, because when that happened, I'm moving to Malibu right now.
Yeah.
At Point Doom.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to give the house back because I can't commute now. It's like 2 hours commute, plus the drive to Malibu right now in PCH is just not the same.
Yeah.
You feel like you're driving in a war zone. It's a devastating. They took a beautiful scenery, putting, the high street on the road, and all of a sudden you're looking out there and it's not the same. And I was thinking to myself, and I was talking to Noga and the kids about, should we move? And what helped me back here is you and the community.
Yeah.
I just can't think of me in this age going out there somewhere else and build a new community.
That's what I've always said that.
Yeah.
That is what's daunting.
I'd rather do business somewhere else, but live here. I have friends here for over 30 years. I mean, even then we don't see each other much. I mean, the day of the fire, you and I spoke, and I saw you the day after.
I run into people, whether it's Beverly Hills, Century City, Santa Monica, Brentwood, all the time. If I were to move, even maybe not Manhattan Beach, there's a lot of our real estate community down there. But if I just moved to Orange County or San Diego or somewhere else,
Even Palm Springs, I mean, whatever. The desert.
you don't have those organic run-ins.
Yes.
And although I am confident that I would be able to rebuild my network, it's daunting. And I've now been a lawyer for 25 years now. I can't believe that, quarter of a century. I don't want to have to rebuild my network.
And it's not just about network, it's a personal relationship. It's not just a business relationship. It's the personal relationship in our age, making new friends. You know, you and I don't see each other, but I know at any given time we're calling each other and it's there.
And if I needed to see you, if you needed to see me, we would drop everything.
Yeah. So going out there and start fresh, it's I don't know, it's devastating. It's not easy.
It is, but now let's just talk about
And your family here.
Courtney's family's here. And they are an unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable to have them so close from an assistant. But let's talk about reality for a second. And although you do mostly multifamily, but you've done single family homes here, and most of my business is still commercial or multifamily. But the single family market right now, I mean, it's insane. You have 6,000 displaced Palisadians. Now, some have moved.
30% already moved from some of the stats.
Okay, I believe it. Maybe they have moved for 6 to 12 months to 24 months. We don't know. But if you want to replicate your life from the Palisades, people are moving to Santa Monica, Brentwood, Manhattan Beach, maybe Beverly Hills. Maybe they're moving north to Montecito. To buy a house, that market, in those markets, prices have gone up, I'm going to say 25 to 30% overnight, just because of supply and demand.
And it's going to be a pretty challenging place to live, because I'm just thinking about the route to construction to Pacific Palisades to Sunset and the 10 freeway and the PCH. I mean, you're going to have trucks there at 4 o'clock in the morning queuing to Pacific Palisades to build those 6,000 homes. So how do you live in Santa Monica when you have all this traffic back and forth?
It's possible. Look,
anything from west of the 405, it's going to be a nightmare of traffic for whatever amount of years, according to speculation. It could be 2 years, it can be 10 years.
So I can't help myself but ask you a question as moderator of Real Talk. The discussion of how long it will take to rebuild the Palisades. There may be some people who are able to rebuild their individual home faster than anyone else.
That's not rebuilding for me.
Exactly. I don't want to live through one of the greatest reconstruction projects in our city's history. So when do you think it will take someone like me to rest my head on a pillow in the Palisades and not have construction trucks going up and down my street, having schools, having retail, having the parks, having my community back?
Don't have a crystal ball, but we go. It's just I put my developer hat for a second. Infrastructure, contamination, city planning, all this, at best a year, probably up to 2 years. That's just to get you to a pad that you'll be able to build. Now, you'll be able to build some homes, but it's actually going there and not dealing with construction and everything else. To build a 5,000, 6,000 square feet, the minimum is 8 months. Let's call it up to a year and a half. And then, doesn't matter how you see it, it's 3 to 4 years right there. That's assuming everything goes smoothly. So in my opinion, to go back to a place that you drive in Pacific Palisades and you're going to say to yourself, what happened here 5 years ago? Like, this is pretty much like a new neighborhood. In my opinion, at least 5 years.
That's right.
And they can take up to 7. At best is 3.5 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see you driving on a PCH with all brand new homes, all infrastructure there. People are back going to a restaurant and back to normal. I don't see it in anything less than 3 to 4 years.
So what would you do?
Well, I think it's.
I know you're in a different place in your life. Your kids
that's
are.
the thing. I think
older.
it has a lot to do with where you are in your life. And if you're in your 20s and 30s and you had always this dream place to live in Pacific Palisades because it's one of the most beautiful places in the world, you have an entry level of you going to a beautiful neighborhood and you can build a life. If you're a retired person and you say, you know what, I want to retire in Pacific Palisades, it's always also a great place. But I most likely, if I had kids your age, I probably would not rebuild. Or at least just this way, I would find myself a new home.
Yeah.
For two reasons. First, I don't want to take those memories with me and bring it back on the future. That was in the past. It's time to move. I want to create new experiences, new memories, new life in somewhere else. I don't know where, but somewhere probably within. I don't know if you remember. I moved to Ohio.
I was going to bring that up. You
So
moved to Ohio.
Noga lives in Brentwood, and she's
Mhm.
moving to Ohio. She's moving back to Ohio because she does not want to deal with West Side traffic. She doesn't want to deal with the stress. She feels there is a certain level of anxiety in the air, and she feels like, you know what?
Not to mention all the pollutants in the air still from
She
the
said,
fire.
you know what? I don't want to be there. I went from Malibu back to either Bel Air or West Hollywood now, and I'm actually thinking, where should I move?
Now, but you did move to Ohio.
Yes.
How did that affect your business?
Okay. As again, a priority of where your life is. When I moved to Ohio, I had 4 young kids. My priority was the kids, and that was the best move ever. We raised the kids in Ohio, between Ohio and Montecito, and for us, I don't know what hit us back then, but that was a great move. We're very fortunate to raise the kids there. So I highly recommend it. The second thing is, it did a tremendous work. For me, it was a huge growth, personal growth, because I was in Ohio, I was in nature, I was being able to feel healthy and then get clarity. So, and then back then it was 2008, so we had a whole different cycle then. But I gotta tell you, it helped my business. It was a little bit of a dip, and then right I got back into the swing. It was fantastic because when I have a home, when it's solid, when I can go back to my family and the family happy, everything that comes with my work, I can deal with it in a whole different headspace. So it was a blessing for me. I'm not telling you move to Ohio, but if you need to move,
Yeah.
Ohio is a fantastic place to raise kids.
Do you work for the Ohio Chamber of Commerce?
No.
So Gidi, that when people say, how are you doing? It is that decision of where to live that is taking up too much headspace, right? Everything else will work itself out, from the insurance to the lenders to even if I'm not living in the Palisades, dealing with the cleanup, maybe rebuilding, maybe I move in, maybe I sell it. But for the next several years of where to live, I don't know. I just can't answer that question.
First, be kind to yourself, give yourself a break because it's a tough decision. So it's understandable that it's swayed on you and the family occurred me and it's a big decision. And just give yourself a little bit more time because, we're only a couple of months. So it's been a couple of months to January 7th. So give yourself a little bit of time and maybe the answer would come, or, you make a decision. But I can tell you that the drive to Ohio, I used to do it on a helicopter, if you remember.
Yeah, I was in that helicopter. Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. But between LA to Ohio, there is Camarillo, there is other places.
I know.
Yeah. But I want to finish on a good note.
Yeah.
No, it was a bad note, but I want to finish on. Usually, when crises like that appear in our life, there is some positive comes out.
Yep.
There is a silver line. There is a growth. There is, I don't know. There is usually from those crises something positive comes. What's the positive thing that came to you and your family?
Okay. I have a great story. I'm Jewish. I know you're Jewish. I say this in jest, but I tell people there was a moment in time where I
Pray to God.
I was contemplating converting to Christianity. But here, let me explain why. So we are all going through a process of clearing out the debris of our homes, whether it's through Army Corps of Engineers or private. And before you clear out the debris, there's an organization called, oh my God, I can't believe, Samaritan's Purse. Samaritan's Purse. It's a church-based organization that I'm not here. I had no idea who they were. And so people said, call this group, make an appointment before you clear out the debris, and they will come to your house and find or try to find personal belongings. Come on, seriously? So I made an appointment. I'm at my house site, and a truck pulls up. It says Samaritan's Purse. 8 people come out of this truck. These people, church-going people from all over the country. They took vacation time from their work to fly out to LA on their own dime. They are sleeping on the floor of a church where they have to either bring their own sleeping bag or buy their own cot. They go from house to house, spend about 3 to 4 hours on their hands and knees, working on toxic, hazardous, compromised soil, trying to find personal belongings that care to me. That, right?
God works.
God works, right? They asked me if I was religious. I said, not particularly. I'm Jewish. They asked me if they could provide me with a Bible. And I said, of course. They wrote in it handwritten messages. And I spent the morning with them. And the dedication that these people had to me of trying to find jewelry and anything. And so what did they find? They found our sterling silver from our wedding. Wow. 12-piece, spoons, forks, knives, whatever. Now, it was the color of like this table. It wasn't silver. It was dark brown. We'll take it to a company to maybe restore it. China, plates, saucers, bowls, some of it intact, some of it in large enough pieces where we could put it together. 1 earring. But it wasn't what they found. It was that these people, the commitment to their fellow man, their fellow human, was nothing like I've ever seen before. And I got to say, look, as Jews, we are very generous people.
But nobody showed up from the Sunday.
No, I mean they have.
The rabbi asked for the mezuzah.
Yeah, but we're not getting on our hands and knees, right? We would donate, and so just this selflessness restored my faith in humanity. It really did. And so I've got this New Testament Bible in my apartment. And no, I'm not converting to Christianity, but it was, I'd never seen that type of selflessness before, ever. And it is odd and uncomfortable for me to accept charity.
So allow you to actually looking even deeper than all the experiences that you went through, to be able to experience something completely different by human.
It really did. It really did. And it also
and how is that affecting your life going forward for you and your family? What do you take with that?
Well, first, politically, I would say, growing up here in LA and being in LA, there's a lot of negative talk about the religious right.
Yeah.
These people are the religious right. They just wanted to help. And so I feel like we cannot just throw a blanket over everybody and say, this is how these people act and this is how these other people act.
Did you share that with the kids?
I did. And we've got what they found, and it was more the story that I shared with them that I hope resonates. And so, Gidi, I wanted to do this podcast and share my story for a couple of reasons. One, I hadn't done a podcast in 2025, so people are probably wondering, like, where the hell's Kirsh? Second, I wanted to share my story so my kids can hear this.
I'm glad we touched a lot about the kids. Andrew, it's a pleasure and honor that you allow me to do it with you. You're a good friend. You guys have an amazing family. I'm sorry for, I see you going super emotional about it now. So thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah.
And I really hope that you will stay in LA